Hello, thanks for joining. It's Bert Lamar here with the Bert Lamar Show, episode 8. Coming to you from Hawaii today, where I'm over here following my dream of winning an Ironman at the age of 60. So longevity is becoming a big focal point in the podcast. And today's episode is going to be specifically about fueling and food prep and preparation and what I'm calling the fourth discipline. So thanks for joining. I'd love to start the episode with a little bit of just overview feedback. I've had some requests to just kind of fill you in on my background. So some people haven't seen episode 1. Episode 1 is kind of an overview of my background and that. And so for those of you that are just joining and haven't seen episode 1, my name is Bert Lamar. I am 6 years old. I live in Oahu, Hawaii now, chasing my dream of winning Ironmans. And to me, that doesn't sound unrealistic at all. And I guess to a lot of followers and people, it sounds extremely unrealistic, and even for professionals and that. But my background has brought me to this point. I grew up at the age of 11 as a professional skateboarder, skateboarding with the likes of Tony Hawk and Stevie Caballero. Tony Alva was there kind of at the beginning of my career. And I was focused and lucky enough to learn a lot during my skateboard career, which lasted almost a decade, and somehow ended up in the Hall of Fame of skateboarding. I didn't even know they had it. And it's a prestigious honor. And so skateboarding at a high level, I've talked a lot about that, taught me professionalism. And at the age of 13, I had to deal with sponsors and literally confronting companies that weren't paying me royalties for royalties internationally when my contract said I was to be paid internationally. So even though it looks like I live a life of sport and fun, it's all business as well. And I think that's the key to having a successful career, whatever you do, especially if you're an artist type. But I think in any business, you need to have that professionalism. So my background, 11 to probably about 17, 18, 19, in that range, skateboarding at the highest level, competing, one of the youngest ever to win competitions. Back then, winning a couple $1,000s was like winning $1 million. They gave me checks bigger than my body. And so skateboarding at the highest level, skate parks, traveled around the world, learned about sponsors, being professional, showing up. And then that led to, I went from skateboarding, I went into hair. I was a hairdresser for a couple of years. I wasn't sure what I was going to do kind of after high school. And that quickly led to a real creative part of my life. And I love doing hair. I still do hair and have clients, and I love it. It's such a life-changing thing for people, and it's such a connection for me and my clients. It's beautiful. And a way to be creative and make people feel good. So I went to hair, and then I quickly went to snowboarding. And within a couple months of snowboarding, I went to the Breckenridge World Cup in Breckenridge, Colorado, the Swatch Watch World Cup of snowboarding, where riders were there from all over the world, and ended up winning the World Cup title in the half pipe. I'm not going to go into the details, but my skateboard background, skiing background, and confidence, and just reality, just believing in myself so much that at such a high level. To most people, it sounds crazy, ridiculous, but I told Tom Sims and Jake Burton the night before the contest, I said, you probably should get me a board. I'm probably going to win this thing. And Jake kind of laughed, and Tom said, well, you got to beat Craig Kelly. He's 8-time world champion. But I'd been practicing all week, and reality to me was I was putting together runs and doing tricks that no one was doing. And I knew deep in my gut that I had what it takes to put it together for the contest. So I changed my entry the night before the competition from amateur to pro, and I won the World Cup, and it was a big deal for back then, this late 80s, early 90s. I won the World Cup, and because I was outgoing and interacting with the sponsors and the people there, I was able to connect with the Steve Reckschaffner, the guys running the Swatch and the event. They asked me if I wanted to film a commercial the next day. It was a $70,000 commercial, and that just launched my whole career at snowboarding. I took off. I went to Vermont to learn about Burton and Sims, and I signed with Sims, and then I started Lamar Snowboards, which I grew to a $15 million snowboard company. And I always am taking care of business, and I'm always loving the passion of the sport at the chorus level. So here I am right now in Hawaii, on my way to do a bike training session. I'm training for the Ironman here in Kona. I got a half in May. I'm trying to qualify for the Worlds. I have to get under right around 5 hours and a half. So everything's got it. I'm way off. I've got so much work to do. So back to just wrapping up my career. So those of you who don't know me, skateboarding got to the highest level, snowboarding got to the highest level, hair was successful, and then Lamar Snowboards. So that was my first real company. But during this time, from 11 to 19, 20, I was an entrepreneur. My parents were telling me, hey, I had so many little failures. I tried to make skateboard rails. I invented the first toothpaste pump. Back when everyone had squeeze paste only, I invented a plastic, because my dad was a mold maker. So I actually invented a thing, and I didn't even know how to sell it. I took it straight into like a drugstore and went to the guy at the counter, like, hey, you guys want to buy these? And the manager said, this is a good idea, maybe. And I never followed through with it. But I always trying. But the big ones were skateboarding, snowboarding, and then Lamar Snowboards. And then from there, after a good decade of running Lamar Snowboards, moving from athlete to designer, I really have a passion for designing products, what I call from the battlefield, from living the sport, from doing what you love. And then Lamar Snowboards was one of the most innovative brands out there. I brought sublimation to the industry. I brought the short high back. I brought a lot of things in board design and graphics. We were the first to do 5-color graphics, the first to really pay team riders well and stand up for the team riders. There was I really helped pioneer a lot of riders, just giving them the experience that I had from skateboarding to snowboarding to get paid what they were worth. I remember Craig Kelly, rest in peace, he was so underpaid, and these companies just take advantage of the main stars, right, and the main names. So snowboarding, then I was getting tired of the travel all over the world. I loved learning about Europe, living in Europe, France, traveling around, filming, competing. But I knew, I needed to have a business. This wasn't going to last forever. As an athlete, started Lamar Snowboards, grew it. And then at a certain size, the company kind of changes from a small company where you make all the decisions to, who the hell is this guy? I had an investor's son-in-law in there, like, trying to help pick graphics from other companies' designs. I'm just like, whoa, this is out of my control. I did not want to be part of my own brand, Lamar Snowboards. And that's when I found golf. I said, fuck this, I'm gonna go golfing. And with the mindset I have, which most people think is crazy, stupid, just way out there, but I believed, like, hey, I'm just gonna be a pro golfer and start a golf company because that's what I do. And it was the hardest thing I've ever worked at in my life. Skateboarding, snowboarding, I worked hard too. And I'm not talking about all the hard days of scabs on the knees and injuries and depression. You don't want to go do things like, but golf was a battle. I sucked, and I couldn't even get the ball 220 yards out in the fairway. But I just grinded, and I loved it, and I worked at it like I was gonna. In my mind, I was gonna be a pro and win the Masters. Like that was just it. I was gonna happen, just like I'm gonna win Kona here. And it took me, I think, only 2 years, which is fast, but it seemed like forever to start breaking par. And I almost qualified for the LA Open at up in Los Angeles. I was shot even par on a rainy day. There were 300 guys. I was first, and then I was second, and they only take like 3 or 4 guys, and I was just pushed out by a guy or two. But I started shooting low scores. I think my lowest was a 63 or 4, like 9-10 under par, and it's such a mental game and a challenging game, and I loved it, and I played it. And then I started Iliac Golf, which was a very successful high-end boutique brand like Lamar Snowboards, and I outfitted Zach Johnson, David Duval, Jimmy Walker. I made products for Tiger Woods, Roy McIlroy, like all the top golfers in the world. And in hindsight, I lived the dream that I wanted. I turned pro, and I realized after, I think I shot a 67 in a tournament, a one-day tournament, and made like $500, and it cost me like $1,500 to do the tournament. I'm like, this is not going to be profitable. So I focused on my amateur status back and just designing and hanging out with the best pros in the world. I had a good decade of like the best time of my life playing and golfing with Zach Johnson, David Duval, Jimmy Walker, friends of mine. Like we would hang out at their house and play golf, and then the next day be at the US Open or the Masters, making sure that their Burt Lamar shirts fit them well and worked well. So after a good decade of that, I realized that I wasn't going to make it as a pro, and I wasn't. The company was hard to scale. We ran into a lot of delivery issues because I'm real adamant about the quality and controlling of the product. I'm not a sellout. I will not. And that's the attraction to the core customers that I've always had. And so, unfortunately, like life for all of us, I went through a divorce during COVID, and kind of a depression of that. Like really, really, this is the hardest thing in my life. And that was tough. And then my dad had a stroke, just a lot of things, having to move out from a family on my own. And so I ended up selling the golf brand and switched my gears to Ironmans. So I sat there with Gino, my sports therapist and physical therapist, and he's worked with a lot of Ironman champions, Mark Allen, and people that have won it 5 or 6 times, and many greats. And he said, you should try an Ironman. And I'm like, whoa. And I looked at Hawaii, and I said, if I'm going to do it, I'm doing the fulls and I'm doing Hawaii. And wow, look at this. Here I am 5-6 years later in Hawaii doing the fulls, or doing training for them. I've done 3 full Ironmans and about 30 halves. And so I love it. It's the healthiest thing in the world, I think, for someone my age. And by the way, I haven't drank alcohol since I was 26 or 7. I was having fun and drinking a little too much, and the French were drinking, and I realized, like, this is poison, this is toxic, I don't need this is not healthy. And that was it. I just quit. I tend to just try to make the healthiest choices. And it doesn't even faze me if it's healthy, it's the smarter choice. And so I sold the golf company, and went through my divorce, went through kind of this transition, started doing hair again, opened up a salon at the beach in Encinitas, built a beautiful clientele. Meanwhile, I was building the Burt Lamar, or the Lamar organic wear brand. This is the logo. It's a string of hearts. I'm all in. Got it on my arm and on my leg. And so full circle, here I am doing the exact same thing I always do, chasing a sport. I want to be the best in the world, and I want to win the Ironman at Kona. I want to win the pro. I want to be the oldest guy to win the pro level, which is fucking gonna be brutal. Means I have to run, I don't know, 2.5 hour marathon after a 112 bike and after a 2-mile swim. But that's the dream, that's the goal. Here's where I'm training up the street from my house on bike stuff. I'm going for a bike right now. I've got an easy 1-hour bike ride with a 24-minute sprint in zone 3. So if you're not familiar with all that stuff, that's kind of what I was setting this podcast up for today to talk about. I'm using ChatGPT like probably most of you, and it's incredible. I highly recommend it for everything. I'm using it for literally my nutrition coaching, my science, and I have some of the best coaches in the world that I've been Janet Alexander friends with forever, but they're just not available like this. Like I literally program in today's workout, the food, and it's got the science and it's got access to what the pros are doing. It's literally changing everything for me. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about under fueling and not being prepared. So that's Bert Lamar. That's who I am. That was a quick, long 16-minute overview of my background, and part of what I didn't talk about in the background, which is important to this, is I've worked with the highest level coaches, and I've been around some of the highest level athletes in the world in all these sports, and I really am a sponge to the science and the nutrition and the training, and watching, guys like Zach Johnson and even Tiger, my friend Janet's best friend, worked on Tiger's body forever, and just seeing how as you mature and you get knowledge, you learn how to be prepared. So Ironman is all that extreme. This is where I'm going to be biking. It's a great, beautiful, beautiful spot. So I'm forest bathing and training for Ironman and working on a longevity lifestyle from 60 to 90 here or wherever I go. And so today's kind of main point is nutrition and making sure that you don't undereat and don't bonk, basically, as they say, and learning how to put in the right fuel at the right time. So it's a real big experiment for an Ironman, because it's kind of like living your daily life on extreme, kind of on steroids. So you really, if you don't have the glycogen in your system and you don't have the carbs and the energy at the right time, and then you're not putting in the proteins to fuel, the proteins and the fats to recover, and doing it all at the right time, it's hard. And it's really, really hard because most of these coaches and these people on the internet are selling products, and they're talking about different products. So at the end of their conversation, it's like, buy my sugary gel and buy my this carb and these bars or whatever. So what I'm talking about is, the main thing I think you could learn is glycogen storage. Okay, so to go do what I'm about to do here, this morning, I ate properly. So I had a bowl of oatmeal and I used water. I didn't use any kind of sugar almond drinks. I was using almond milk, but it had sugar and other processed stuff in it, and some dates, some organic mojo dates, and a little cinnamon and just a touch of honey. Actually, I didn't even need the honey because of the dates. And that's it. And I had 2 Applegate turkey sausages, like tiny ones, because I did need a little fat. So if I would have eaten the eggs and bacon and that, this would not be an elite level training session, and I would probably bonk. My blood would be in my stomach trying to process proteins and fats instead of using high energy carbs to fuel this workout. So it's the opposite of after. So during the workout, I'll have 2 bottles of water with salt in them. Salt's electrolytes. So I love AI because they're not sponsored by anyone. So it's like chat is confirming literally it's salt and a little honey and a little lemon juice. But that's what I need to just keep my energy level up high when I'm in zone 3. And this is a short hour workout. So I'm not going to need too many gels during the workout, but like long sessions, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hour, biking and running sessions, you've got to be putting in calories. And David Roach, who just set the world record for the 100 in Leadville, he's amazing. And he and his wife, they're PhDs and elite athletes, super cool to hear. They are confirming just kind of the new trend, and I'm sure a lot of you are already on that, but food, calories, carbs, preloading, amino acids, all this stuff, salt, water during your exercise is the way to really consistently keep going. And it's pretty obvious. I mean, we all know during the day sometimes we get tired and lose focus. You're dehydrated. The first thing that happens is you start to lose a little focus with your eyes, then you lose balance, then you get frustrated, and then into your stomach and physiology. But staying hydrated, staying carb loaded, and keeping the glycogen in your body from the day before, it's all part of it. And it's not science where you can't figure this out. I would recommend using ChatGPT and tell it what you're eating, tell it what your exercise level is, your work level, your stress level, and try not to bonk. So I did that 2 days ago, and that's why we decided to do this episode. I was here, I think I had a 2.5 hour bike after a swim, after like a 40-minute swim, and I didn't need enough before. There was too big of a gap between the swim and the bike. I wasn't getting in enough calories, and I was feeling it, but I stuck it out. Okay, oh no, I'm sorry. So the bike was before, so the run was the one I wanted to share. So the run I did 2 days ago had 4 2.5 minute zone 4 sprints. So I was flying, and it was me trying to see if I could get close to 8 minutes, because that's what I need to do to win a qualifying spot for the half Ironman, to get into the full Ironman. So I'm like sitting here usually puddling around at 9.5, 10-minute miles, just clugging along, out of fuel, out of energy. But that workout, I put in the time. I was hitting 7 somethings and 8s and 8.5s, and it felt great. It was actually the best I've felt training in this whole Ironman process in 5 years now. And those 2.5 minutes flying felt incredible, but they burned the most glycogen, they stressed the body the most. And I was working close with Chat on getting my fuel after, and I did a pretty good job, but I was really feeling it. And I was drinking salts and water right after. I had a ham and cheese sandwich on a good Dave's bread right after. I had some yogurt and some apple and some honey. So I was getting, some glycogen and carbs back in. And then I started about an hour later. You let your stomach settle down because it's processing the initial stress of the glycogen depletion. And then I went to, which Ironmen are known for eating this Hawaii diet, which really helps them. So I went for rice, 2 big balls of rice, and shrimp, a ton of shrimp at Giovanni's over here in the North Shore. And that felt good, but the shrimp was not clean. It was like their shrimp was just soaked in butter and oil. So that set a little rough in the stomach. But then I went to North Shore to take a break, which is hard for me to just lay on the beach because I'm always working on my clothing brand or my business or training. But I know, resting is important, but my body was wound up from the highest level stress of the sprints, and it's all about fuel. I didn't have enough glycogen in me before. So your body takes in 2,000 calories of glycogen 24 hours before you exercise, 400 of it goes into your liver, and 1600 of it is into your muscles. If you didn't eat, or you just ate like crappy fats and protein 2 days before, you wouldn't have the glycogen storage from the carbs and the protein all working together. So all that being said, it's probably the most important discipline is your diet and your rest. Okay, so diet is water, and the calories, and then how you're getting them and when you're using them. And so I'm really learning, and part of my goal is to be lighter upper body. I want to have a really light upper carriage, because I realized running that fast, it wasn't cardiovascular that was hurting me, and it wasn't mentally. I was trying to save it, because I'm like, oh, if I go too hard too long, I might not be able to keep this up. But it was more like my upper body just feels big and heavy. I'm like a bodybuilder, and Ironman, their upper bodies are like nothing. They're like a long distance runner. So that's my goal, is to have this light upper carriage, but to not do it with not eating. So this is the whole fuel thing that I want to share, is once you learn what to eat, I still need 3,000 to 5,000 calories a day when I'm training medium, mid stress level to high stress level. On a low light stress level day like yesterday, I just swam for 45. I just needed maybe 3,000 calories. But like hard days, hours of zone 3s and 4s and 5s, you need a lot, but you have to consistently fuel it with the right food, so you're building glycogen and you have your carbs and you're building for the next day. So I guess my message here is learn your fuel, and watch your day. And if it's a light day, you can take in less. If it's a big day, but you have to know what's coming the next day and the days ahead. So one of my coaches, Matt Fitzgerald, who helps me with my planning, he wrote a book called The Endurance Diet, which is pretty helpful, where he studied the most elite athletes in the world, and a lot of them eat like they eat really well, and they don't have these fad diets. They eat quality, but they instinctively know, or they've been taught. It's totally different up until college level. Once you're a pro and you're out there and they're eating, its fuel is a big difference. You can't just get away with McDonald's and skipping meals and too much salt and not enough salt and like the right stuff. So they are loading based on the workout. So if you've got a race coming up, or a hard week of all kinds of sprints and hill repeats and interval work and running, and it's hot, and you've got to preload and have the glycogen ready to go. So I hope this helps you. I'm trying to just be open that, like at a high level training for an Ironman, putting in hard work, if you're doing something like that, I would recommend using ChatGPT versus looking at all these YouTube videos of people, because they're unfortunately all selling sugar drinks and these goos and things. I thought Stinger was a good one, but it's just sugar and fructose and honey. And I'm actually coming out with the Lamar Organic, my protein and electrolyte gel packs. So I don't want to give away the total secret, but it's going to have a huge Hawaii vibe. I developed them for myself here using coconuts and some of the most beautiful ingredients, and no preservatives, and it's working really well. So I'm actually going to introduce that into the line. So that's it. This is my short 30-minute podcast. I hope you enjoy it. Please share it with your friends. Please share comments with me. I'm really interested in growing this. I want to share, and I want to eventually work with some of you and kind of share that process. So I'm sharing my process right now, chasing longevity, chasing an Ironman dream, chasing the building a brand. It can all be done, and it's all about balance. And there's so much to it, but it also is so simple. So I'm here to help you keep it simple and reach your dreams and whatever they are. So please comment, share. And last but not least, I need to thank my sponsor, my company, Lamar Organic Wear. So this is Lamar Organic Wear. This is our logo, which is a string of hearts and plants. So we make apparel from thread for human hearts out of plants. So it's lamarorganicwear.com, and I'm wearing the bike top today, which has all kinds of cool gel pockets. This is made out of nature certified organic cotton that it's taken me years to source, and it's hand dyed with indigo flowers, and this is completely high level non-toxic. Like, there's no PFAS, no microplastics, no forever dangerous chemicals. It's a huge thing in the world. They've known it since the 40s, and it's just coming out now that most of the clothing has petroleum and toxic dyes and sprays. Even cotton and hemp and these products that sound like they're healthy, they're almost worse than polyesters because they release all the toxic sprays and chemicals into your skin, and your skin is taking it in more than your mouth, so your skin is really absorbing what you're wearing. So at Lamar Organic Wear, we are